Now we have our next speaker, Dr. Rachele Zanone. We are honored to welcome her because she's a distinguished art historian and cultural heritage scholar. Her research is from medieval Armenian manuscripts to ornamental expressions in non-European art traditions. Surprise and no surprise. Dr. Rachele Zanone, she is a PhD in history, territory, and cultural heritage from University of Rome. Her research at Matenadaran in Armenia took place, and also she's based in Florence, Italy, so major connections with all this research work. She has been awarded, get ready for this, by the Ministry of Culture of Armenia for her work on Armenian illuminated gospels. We found her. She's here. Welcome, Dr. Zanone, and currently you're doing a research at the International University of Siena in Italy, University of Siena. Welcome to our session. Welcome to Digital Julfa program and initiative. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good morning to everyone from Italy. I would like to thank you, to thank Emma and all the organizer for inviting me to attend this very interesting and precious event, full of the new topic that I am sure will be a source of inspiration for the future project and also for the future research. So I will try to be brief without overlapping with the topic that were expressed early by my art historian colleague Hani Margarian. I would like to share me too a PowerPoint. Emma, if you give me the permission to share.
You have it.
Okay, I will try. Okay, just a minute. Okay, you see?
Yes, we see
Okay,
your screen.
perfect. The title of my presentation is The Impact of the New Julfa Network in Italy and on European country. And the point that will be highlighted are three. New Julfa socio-cultural influence on Europe, the relationship between New Julfa and Italy, the case of Venice as a place of encounter and exchange of cultures, and the third point is research at the Matenadaran on the portrait of Armenian merchants in medieval gospel, 10th-13th century, colophony, iconography, and patronage. The main goal is to highlight the valuable cultural contribution of the Armenian community of New Julfa on Europe throughout the century. The Armenian of New Julfa played a significant cultural role in shaping Europe's understanding of the East during the early modern period. As skilled merchants and intellectuals, they acted as cultural intermediaries, transmitting knowledge, art, and idea between Persia and Europe. One of their key contributions was the introduction of Persian and, of course, Armenian artistic and aesthetic tradition to European audience. Throughout trade and diplomacy, they brought Persian textile, miniature painting, and decorative art into European circulation, influencing taste in fashion, interior design, and visual culture. The New Julfa Armenian were also instrumental in developing early modern printing and translation efforts. Armenian printing presses established in European cities such as Amsterdam and Venice published religious and scholarly texts that promoted intercultural dialogue and preserved Armenian heritage abroad. These works often included multilingual content, which helped bridge cultural gaps and engaged European scholarly interest in Eastern language, religions, and histories. Moreover, the mobility and network of New Julfa Armenians contributed to the spread of architectural style and religious art. Their churches in Europe often reflected a fusion of Armenian, Persian, and European design, symbolizing the blending of civilization. In essence, the Armenians of New Julfa were not just traders, they were transmitters of culture, whose legacy helped deepen Europe's intellectual and artistic engagement with the East. The Armenian community of New Julfa maintained close and dynamic ties with Italy, particularly with the city of Venice, which emerged as a vital center of encounter and cultural exchange between East and West. As part of their expansive trade network, New Julfa merchants regularly traveled to Venice, bringing with them luxury goods such as silks, spices, and Persian artwork. In return, they imported European products and the idea back to Persia. Venice was more than a commercial hub. It became a place of intellectual and cultural interaction. The city's cosmopolitan character allowed Armenian scholars, clergy, and merchants to establish a significant presence. One of the most notable outcomes of this exchange was the founding of the Armenian Mekhitarist congregation on the island of San Lazzaro in the early 18th century. While founded later than New Julfa resettlement, the Mekhitarist order built on the intellectual and diasporic legacy of community like New Julfa, preserving Armenian culture and producing important linguistic, historical, and theological work that reached Europeans' audience. Throughout trade, printing, and scholarship, the relationship between New Julfa and Venice exemplified the role of Armenian as a cultural bridge. Their presence in Venice helped foster mutual understanding and enrich both Armenian and Italian cultural life, leaving a lasting legacy in European-Armenian relations. About the Armenian manuscript production in New Julfa and its impact in Italian art, I want to point out some concepts. In 17th and 18th century, New Julfa became major center for Armenian manuscript production, continuing the rich tradition of illuminated text that combined religious devotion with artistic excellence. Scribes and artists in New Julfa produced finely decorated manuscripts, often blending Armenian iconography with Persian artistic elements such as intricate floral motifs, vibrant color palettes, and delicate gold detailing. These manuscripts were not confined to Persia. Throughout trade and the Armenian diaspora, many reached Europe, particularly in Italy, where they drew the attention of collectors, scholars, and artists. In Venice, where Armenian communities were already active, this manuscript contributed to growing European interest in Eastern art and culture. Italian artists and book illustrators, especially in Venice and in Rome, began to take inspiration from the stylistic features of Armenian manuscript. The fusion of Eastern and Western visual elements influenced Italian decorative art, manuscript illumination, and even religious iconography. Additionally, the presence of Armenian script and religious themes is this work sparked scholarly engagement with Armenian history and Christianity in the East. Thus, the manuscript tradition of New Julfa not only preserved Armenian heritage, but also enriched Italian art, serving as a vivid example of cross-cultural influence in the early modern period. The last point is about my research. Among my research interests mainly related to material culture and art, especially in the Vaspurakan Armenian manuscript, is since 2022, the investigation is about the representation of Armenian merchants in medieval manuscript. Research work has started within the ERC project. The title of this project is Armenia Entangled, Connectivity and Cultural Encounters in Medieval Eurasia, 9th-13th century, at the Sagas Department of the University of Florence, for which I worked as postdoctoral fellow. The PI of this project is the professor Zara Bokosian. My study topic for the Armen project consisted of analyzing the portrait of Armenian merchants in the miniature of medieval manuscripts and placing them in a broader Eurasian context. Given the particularity of certain miniatures, a focus of the research was devoted to the analysis of the clothing worn by these merchants, investigated through an iconographic study and comparison with Byzantine and Arab illuminated production on the same subject and on the same period. In 2023, I published a preview of the result made during my research. And the focus was on, first, the investigation of the colophons of a group of medieval manuscripts where merchants are mentioned as commissioner. This is of fundamental importance because it highlights for the first time a collection of manuscripts commissioned by a specific category of people in the medieval period and in Greater Armenia before the modern flourishing in New Julfa. Secondly, the investigation of the Armenian titles by which these merchants were referenced to in a painting inscription, in carvings inscription, and of course in the colophons. Finally, the third and the last point, the investigation of the garments worn by them in Armenian miniature made it possible to identify particular type of clothing also in relation to a broad comparison between Byzantine and Arab manuscript heritage of the same period. Actually, the research work on this advancing and open up to the broader relation between Armenia and Eurasia. Thank you for your attention, and thank you, Hannah. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Zanone. We are seeing this power of relationships between the two countries, and also taking the power of Armenian merchants, their presence, the trust that they built among so many countries together, based on their innovative, creative approach, using technologies of that time. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us.